We begin today with a massive Christmas-time headache for US President Joe Biden, and it's been delivered by a prominent member of his own party. Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia said over the weekend that he is not able to support Joe Biden's ambitious Build Back Better initiative, a massive public spending proposal that includes, among many other things, most of the president's climate change initiatives. As late as last week, the president held negotiations with Senator Manchin, a conservative-leaning Democrat from West Virginia whose support is absolutely crucial if the bill is ever to pass. The White House expected to cut a deal with Senator Manchin early next year, but in an abrupt move, the Democrat made an appearance on Fox News to pull the rug out from beneath the White House.
And where I'm at right now, the inflation that I was concerned about, it's not transitory, it's real, it's harming every West Virginian. It's making it almost difficult for them to continue to go to their jobs, the cost of gasoline, the cost of groceries, the cost of utility bills. All of these things are hitting in every aspect of their life. And you start looking at, then you have the debt that we're carrying at $29 trillion, and I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation. I just can't. I've tried everything humanly possible. I can't get there.
Well, those words sparked uproar within the Democratic Party and prompted an immediate war with the White House itself. The president's office took personal aim at Senator Manchin, accusing him of a breach of trust. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki released an unusually blunt statement saying that Joe Manchin's comments are at odds with his discussions with the president, White House staff, and his own public utterances. When asked about the flap in a press conference, Jen Psaki appeared somber and said that the White House will hear the concerns of the senator.
We've been in close touch, as you all know, with Senator Manchin for several months now. That will continue. That can include answering questions he may have, hearing concerns he may have. We are in touch with him, with his staff, through senior White House officials at this point in time, and we believe he's been operating and negotiating in good faith.
But that was on Friday, before everything changed over the weekend. And now progressive independent senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders, is harshly criticising Joe Manchin and calling on Democrats to put the Build Back Better bill to a floor vote in the Senate to pressure Joe Manchin into voting no on the record. The US House of Representatives has already passed the investment bill, but in the Senate, Democrats enjoy no effective working majority at all. It is a 50-50 split with Republicans, and Joe Manchin's vote is crucial to getting the $2 trillion bill passed. The US Congressional Budget Office has warned that the bill would increase the country's deficit by $367 billion in the next 10 years. The White House has taken issue with those projections.
Remains his commitment, but it's important to understand that when anybody raises a question about this new CBO score, it is a fake score about a bill that doesn't exist, and we should really focus on the actual bill everybody's going to vote on and considering in Congress right now.
The plan promises radical investment in sectors like schooling, childcare and health, plus, of course, climate change, while more funds will be allocated to face challenges posed by global warming and immigration. The bill proposes to increase corporate tax from 21% to as high as 28%. Joining me now live from New York is WION's correspondent here in the US, Susan Tehrani. Susan, it's good to see you again. I mean, this is a political depth charge that Joe Manchin has unleashed on the White House, but frankly, it's pretty extraordinary that President Biden doesn't appear to have seen it coming.
Absolutely. And the fact that this statement comes out from Jen Psaki is also shocking, considering the fact that Joe Manchin has been saying that he does not support this bill. in its current form for months. He even wrote a letter to Chuck Schumer outlining the parts of this bill that he's uncomfortable with. Again, months ago, he's had discussions with President Biden. He's been on record time and again. So this isn't anything new.
Susan, I can hear you're battling the sirens there while they pass you. Let me just ask you what the prospects are now moving forward. I mean, the White House is saying that despite what they clearly see as Joe Manchin's treachery, they are going to try and find a way of moving all this through the Senate. They could break the bill down into its individual components and try and pass multiple separate spending measures. But I mean, the calendar would, it doesn't help them in that regard as we hurtle towards the midterm elections. This is not an attractive range of options that President Biden is currently looking at.
Right, exactly. This bill is dead right now in its current form. And, some might argue that Joe Manchin actually did a service to the Democratic Party. There are three things to take into consideration, main things. First of all, the Democrats really overreached their power. The progressive thought that they could really go ahead with a bill that perhaps the majority of the centrist Democrats weren't comfortable with, and Joe Manchin was the only one who really had the guts to stand up and say what perhaps other Democrats were thinking about. With a small margin in Congress and a 50-50 Senate, it's hard to imagine that Bernie Sanders' way of saying bring it to the Senate floor and we'll vote on it will really go through. That's very unlikely. Joe Manchin will probably stand his ground. Remember, West Virginia was Trump County, and Joe Manchin has been very clear in saying that he cannot vote on a bill that he can't defend when going back home and talking about it. And then there is the aspect of whether or not they can break this bill. They're probably not going to do that. What they could do is go back and redraw it maybe and go and talk about some provisions of it that perhaps they could, cut back on. I mean, it's a huge bill. And the same way that perhaps they say that inflation was transitory, a lot of economists believe that this bill is not going to cost zero. And in that sense, that may be a possibility. And the third possibility would be like you said, maybe break it down. But all of those things aren't going to happen, overnight. And I think the main message we'll take away of this is that the Biden administration overplayed its hands and really played into the progressive wings of the Democratic Party. And here he is right now, battling one of the cornerstones of his campaign promise.
And of course, what the public sees again, going all the way through into the new year, are Democrats at war with themselves. Susan Tehrani, WION's correspondent, live for us in New York this morning. Thanks very much. We'll see you again soon.